Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Super Action Statue Fist of the North Star Raoh figure. Now, when I first did the unboxing and this guy was included, I asked people, how do you pronounce his name? Is it whatever? And most people said Raoh, as if it's like 2 syllables. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Raoh. But if you know otherwise, you can correct me and let me know. I'd be very curious to find out. Okay, so this one is huge for an SAS figure. It's almost the size of like the big JoJo's figures, which I still need to track down. But it's a big one. There's some really good stuff about it, and there's some stuff that's not so good. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. And this guy stands just about 21 centimeters to the top of his noggin, which makes him pretty close to, let's just say 8 3/8. It's right around there. And I really wish I had Kenshiro to show you, but he's already been packed up, unfortunately. So I'll do it once we get Jaggy. I'll show all 3 of them. Hopefully, I'll be in my new location at that point. And I should have them available. Anyway, I'll do a comparison once we have more of them, but he's a lot taller. And either way, you can check the review up there for the height, and then you'll be able to do your own comparison, because rulers don't lie. Alright, so let's talk about the aesthetic on this guy. But first, a question of the day. Are you into this? SAS line for JoJo's super popular. Seems like the SAS line for Fist of the North Star not as popular. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm personally waiting for the Storm Collectibles Fist of the North Star because I think that's going to be super fun. Okay, I mean, I'm not waiting because I'm buying these too, but I'm still waiting for that also. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic. In true SAS fashion, there is paint all over the place. There's shading in the flesh tones, there's lots of metallics, very fine detail work going on throughout. You can look at his crotch armor. It's just a belt. I don't know why I called it crotch armor. He's got this really nice sculpted like ball bearing armor. I don't know what's going on here. He's got weird stuff, but it's very, very nicely detailed. The lines are all clean. Paint works good. Shading throughout. No issues with that. SAS doesn't ever really have any trouble with that. You can see his face is well detailed. The eyes are painted super clean. I love it. He's a little cross-eyed. Not really cross-eyed. This eye looks like it's going off into like an up and right just a little bit, but it's, well, that looks good there. It's pretty dang good. It's a really good looking figure. It is very stylized, but so was the source material and so are SAS figures, so I'm not going to really fault him for that. So from an aesthetic perspective, I'm going to say this gets a 9 out of 10. It's really well done. The shading on the pants is exceptionally good, so I'm very pleased with that. Now, as far as accessories go, we do get the 2 fist hands to come on them in the package. Then we get a set of kind of relaxed hands, and then another set of a little bit less relaxed hands. I would prefer a little bit more variety there in the alternate hands department. We do get an alternate head where he's yelling. That's pretty well done. That's really well done. I like that a whole bunch. Then we do get his punchy hand, which is my favorite because it's so saturated and so transparent and so well executed, and it goes from the silver color to the yellow to the orange to the yellow to more of a pale yellow / whitish clear. Really nicely done. I love it when they do a good accessory like this, and they really did. Very, very nice. Then lastly, we get a display stand, which is, it's whatever. It's fine. It's probably not going to hold him up. Like if you put him in like a jumping pose, I wouldn't do it for a long period of time because I'm guessing it's going to eventually warp or drop him, but we do get that, so it'll at least support him standing up and posed a little bit. So not a bad spread of accessories. Definitely could be better. The hands definitely could use more variety, but it'll do. These are very pricey figures, but he is huge. So especially compared to normal SAS figures, I think it's fine. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for accessories. The alternate head, the effect part, the stand. You're getting a lot of things we don't get with most figures, so I do like that. Okay, now as far as articulation goes, as is usually the case with the SAS figures, there's a lot of articulation. Most of it doesn't work well. So let's go ahead and take a peek. We're going to pop his head off, and you can see the ball peg in there has nowhere to go. Let me move it a little bit. There we go. There's not much room there for it to move. And once you seat that head on there, the hair and the chin go down right over that big ass neck of his, and it's barely moving. And the neck itself also can barely move. Just the way it's sculpted, there's not much place for it to go unless you're going to really cram it down in there and force it to go inside that cavity. So basically, you're going to be able to twist his head around and lean it a little bit, but mostly you're just going to be moving that neck. Very subtle posing for this guy, for his head. You're not going to get much out of it, so that's a bit of a bummer. Now the shoulders, they did one of the cardinal sins, which is to give him giant shoulders that are sculpted with a little ball hinge on the inside. Similar to what Revoltech does normally, similar to what Bandai has done and almost always what SAS does. It's not ever the right thing to do because it doesn't look good unless the arm's all the way up and then it hides it. But otherwise, you get this big disconnect from where the arm is to the body. And you do get a big ball peg in there that lets it move around. And that would be okay, but you need to have a big cavity then in order to fit the arm in there. And it's separated from that. So you get a little bit of a bicep swivel on that, but unless the arm is actively moved to hide that joint, it's going to be really, really ugly. And you need to have a big cavity in order to tuck it in like that to raise the arm. So definitely not the way to do it. All of the Broly's have had the right kind of shoulders, even though the one promo image didn't show that. The SH Figure Arts Broly's have giant bulbous shoulders, and they're the right kind and they work wonderfully. That's how this should have been also. It's not terrible, like it's functional enough, but it definitely could have been a lot better by just doing a traditional ball hinge, even if you still wanted the ball peg in there. And there's no cap or anything to hide that, so it's just a disjointed mess in some ways. Again, the bicep swivel comes out of that shoulder because it's a ball hinge, so the ball hinge has a ball peg that goes into the torso. You can see that right there. And then it has a straight peg that goes down into the arm, and that's where you get your swivel, so it's very limited. You do have ball hinge, double ball hinge for the elbow joint though, which doesn't give him great range, frankly. It's only about 90 degrees, but you do get rotation out of that. So if you need more rotation, you do have that. And you can rotate the lower half also if you want, but it doesn't work well because you tuck the elbow pieces in a little bit. As usual, SAS doesn't have a good functional set of articulation. Wrists are on ball hinges, that's fine, no problem there. For the torso, I believe it's a single ball for the upper torso. Let's see what kind of range we get. He doesn't really lean back, not too much at all. Leaning forward is pretty good. I'm trying to just do the top, but the bottom keeps wanting to move. Side to side works pretty well. It's not great, but it goes pretty far down if you lean to this forward and to the side, so that's okay. But then we get a lot of range out of that lower ball peg, so that's good, especially if you... Now this is kind of tricking it, but if you lean him forward actually on the hips, which is not an unreasonable thing to do, and you can do it with this guy, you get even more range. Leaning hips, lower torso, and upper torso, he can lean pretty far. Going back, it's still virtually none. Like, that's as far as he can lean back, hips and everything, because he does have fairly defined cheeks on his floating crotch piece. Now, his hips are on standard ball pegs, but they are very, very loose. Like, way too loose. He's very heavy and large, and he has, first of all, that lower ball peg is loose, and then the hips themselves are loose. So everything from here to here is floppy, not good, very flaccid. You do get a thigh swivel, which is nice, I'll give him that. You get the range, technically, which is nice, but again, it's very loose. Super duper loose. You might want to even pop that off, throw some paper in there or something. That doesn't, like just a little sheet of paper that's non-invasive, and that will give him a little extra friction, hopefully, to help. Now, another issue that this guy has, I'll show you how the knee joint works. It's a double jointed knee, and they have this oval piece that's all part of the knee. You can see it looks like a kidney bean, no, a lima bean. Goes all the way up here and then down here, and it just hides the gaps. That's a great idea. It's not the right color though, so that's definitely a bummer. But on this side, oh my goodness, on this side, when I did that, you see how that's binding right there? It's fighting to go back in, and if I force it, I can get it to go back in. On this side, it pops out completely. If I pull this out, like I have to try hard, first of all, because there's too much, the bean is pressing against the shin part. And if I force it open, it'll open, but then the bean sticks out over the top, and it's only a flat piece, it's not an actual bean. So I had to heat the crap out of this and like pull on it and stretch the plastic and everything to get it to close back up. So on mine at least, I can't bend this any farther or it'll pop out and be a problem. But on the top, it has extra range. I don't know what they did. Maybe they put it on upside down or something, because this one doesn't go that far. So I don't know if mine's defective or if they screwed something up, or I don't know what's going on. It doesn't look like the knee joint is upside down, but maybe it is. It's hard to say. It's weird though, and problematic. For the ankle, we get a ball hinge. It leans back a little bit, leans forward almost none, and you can rotate it around for a little bit of an ankle rocker, but not much, because the way the foot goes up and the ankles go down, there's just no room. Toe hinge is there. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's whatever. So, as usual, the articulation's there. You'll be able to pose him some and probably make it look okay. These are separate pieces, by the way, and mine likes to just sit like that, which is totally not where it belongs, so I don't care for that. This one sits in place. But anyway, you'll be able to pose it well enough in basic poses, but it's not going to be super dynamically posable, and I guess they do call them action statues, which is interesting. I thought that was always about like the sculpt and the paint, but I'm starting to think it might be about the limited articulation. That's a good joke. So yeah, it's definitely not as posable as it should be given all of the articulation that's on there, but it's not terrible. I'll give it a 6 out of 10 given that it has the articulation, it just doesn't work. It's kind of a bummer. But it's not awful. You'll be able to get it into some poses, and it might be good enough that if you really like the character or the source material or the anime or any of that, then you might be satisfied enough. It's technically doable, but it's going to be finicky and a pain in the ass. Alright, so final verdict on this guy. It is a high price point, but you do get a lot of sculpt and paint and size. Accessories are decent. Articulation is pretty crap for the price point and for the company, but I don't know. I think I'll give it an overall rating of 7. That seems fair enough. There's a lot going on for it that is good, despite the stuff that's not going on for it that is bad. That is going on that is bad. You know what I mean. It's a 7. It's a 7. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.